Hello, this is Jeremy Henniger, Director of Statewide Assessment for the third section of the Statewide Assessment Regional Workshop for October 2019. We're going to talk about NSCAS alternate in general and a little bit of information about certified facilitators. So let's get started. Okay, NSCAS alternate. Here are the dates again. We put the ELPA dates on here for you and the NSCAS general and alternate dates. That's that same 6-week window again on 1-week makeup window. Just a couple of general notes about alternate assessment. We pulled this information from Advisor based on the alternate assessment flag in the district's data manager. So if you use SRS or some other manager for tracking special education information, we use the alternate assessment flag. It's really important that that is correct, and it will be easier if it's correct before we pull that information at the beginning of January. Remember, districts do not receive materials, so we stopped this a couple of years ago. Districts print this material for the 1% of the population that uses or qualifies for the alternate assessment, and then proctors either can give that online or paper pencil. Either way, proctors input the answers and you don't send anything back. You destroy everything at the end of the window or when you're finished giving the alternate assessment. So you print things out, put the answers into the system, and then you destroy those materials afterwards. We use DRC Insight. That is not only the software that the students use, but it's also the test management software. So they changed the name of that to DRC Insight as well. So it's DR Insight on the student side and on the proctor side. Remember, we do record a proctor training that's available to all proctors. So that is one additional piece of training that we provide for the alternate assessment. We also provide online tools training, which is a practice opportunity available in Insight. Formerly eDirect, like I said before, they changed the name of that so that you can print those off or you can give those online, but those are online tools training. Those are practice opportunities for students prior to testing. This year for 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade, we'll be doing census field test for science. So we'll be testing the new science standards. We do have extended science indicators that look a little bit different than the old ELA and math. I shouldn't say old, the other ELA and math extended indicators. Those are up on our website right now. And you're able to access those. So they look a little bit different. They're trying to stay true to the three-dimensional nature of our general science standards. But all students will participate in 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. If the students qualify for alternate assessment, they will need to take the census field test. During field testing, we're testing the test, not testing the students. And so you will not get results back for those field tests, and we will not use that in accountability or anything. But we're prepping for that operational test in 2021. Couple other pieces of information about the alternate assessment. So in first part of November, probably your districts are going to have to submit information about justification for exceeding the 1% threshold for alternate assessment. Remember that threshold is put on by the federal government. We can only have 1% of the students in the state take the alternate assessment. So there is some change in documents here again. All districts are required to complete these documents, whether you have more than 1% or you expect more than 1% or not. So there is a section for all districts to fill out regardless of how many students you have taking the alternate assessment in a given year. Justification support worksheet. So new this year, like it says, you have to describe the training that was provided to all staff. So anybody that helps make a decision about whether a student qualifies for alternate assessment needs to be trained on the alternate assessment guidelines. So that's one piece of evidence that you have to provide. There's also some additional resources, the 1% exception background information. That just kind of gives a history of where that came from and why we have to try to abide by it. There is going to be another document about completing the justification document, so that'll just be an instructions document. And then there'll be additional 1% threshold guidance information that's already out there for you as well. There is updated alternate assessment criteria document, so that's just has a new column in it for sources of evidence that you have to provide, so that'll be updated this year. And then there's also a new resource available. It's a companion to alternate assessment criteria. These are what's really important is that you use these guidelines, these criteria documents to make decisions about 1%. Like I said before, the 1% threshold is really a state threshold. What that means is that individual districts within the state can go over the 1%. In fact, we're likely to have some districts that will naturally go over the 1% because one student would be over 1% in some cases. So there's no requirement that each district gets down to the 1%. But with that being said, if we're not all doing our part, then it's impossible for the state to get down to the 1%. We have evidence that we continue to reduce the amount of students that are participating. We'll keep working through those guidelines. We'll have to do a waiver if we believe that we're going to go over the 1% again this year. But as long as we continue to reduce those numbers overall and getting closer to that 1%, as a state, we should continue to get that waiver. This last year, about 19 districts received sanctions from U.S. Department of Education because they either didn't fill out the waiver or their evidence was that they weren't doing the work that they said they were going to do to reduce that number. Like I said, again, what's important is that all districts are using this criteria to get to that 1%. If we're all doing that, then we should be able to get down to that 1% level that is expected of us. And in no case should a student, using this criteria, should a student be denied the alternate assessment just simply because your district is over the 1%. If you're using this criteria, you can go over the 1%. If we need to change those criteria in the future to get down to 1%, we can. The last thing I'll say is last year that we started looking at students' disability, primary disability. What we found is there were some students with specific learning disabilities that were qualifying for the alternate assessment. That really shouldn't be happening in most cases. The specific learning disability doesn't qualify somebody. So those are the types of things we're trying to do, is to make some equity and fairness across the state. If we're all using these criteria to determine who's should be on the alternate assessment, then that is more equitable and fair for all districts, and we're more likely to get down to that 1% that we need to get down to. So if you have questions about that, please let us know at the assessment office. NSCAS General, once again, we put the dates in here for you. Like I said, the same dates as an earlier slide for alternate. Here is the information about supported devices and technology for this year. Please share that with your technology teams. New for summative, just a couple of pieces for this. So we are updating the online item type samplers, which is a practice opportunity for students. That will be, they're currently available. The updated ones will be available in December, which will include specifically one for science and the new science assessment that we're going to be field testing this year. Text-to-speech eligibility criteria, the same criteria exists out there. We're just doing a better job of tracking that in the system, so that's just an update there. Also, text-to-speech for science field test. It's important to know, and we've talked about this before, that text-to-speech is available to all students on the science field test. On ELA and math, the text-to-speech is only available for students with a documented need in an IEP, a 504, or an English language plan, English language learner plan. For text-to-speech on the science field test this year, we'll be trying out expanded opportunities to use that. We're developing guidelines now, and we'll put that out there. For instance, students with a reading deficiency, a reading deficit, might qualify for text-to-speech. Districts will have to turn that on for districts, and we'll be, like I said, putting guidance out about how to do that and who should be examined to determine if they qualify for that or not. So that'll be coming up here soon. New features and functionality, and just some additional notes here. So important to note for the science field test that there is no paper pencil material for the science field test. So if you have a student that has to have a paper pencil because of a medical condition or other reasons why you would have a paper pencil, that student would be exempted from testing for the science. Otherwise, we expect all 5th and 8th graders to test using the Science General, NSCAS General Science Field Test this year. iPad highlighter for OS versions 12.2 is going to be, and above is going to be available this year for the first time. This is going to be a logistical change here. We're going to start shipping paper pencil materials directly to external programs. In the past, districts would have to order it and then ship it to an external program and then ship it back to the district. And then the district would have to send it back to NWA. Now we're going to cut out that middle step of the districts. And so the Maggie Sis in our assessment office will be assisting external programs with that ordering. It'll go directly to them, and then they'll be able to send it directly back. So that should simplify some of those pieces and some of the timelines. Score reporting timelines, as I mentioned this year in a previous episode of this year in ELA and math, we'll be getting near immediate results. For districts, you'll be getting both an achievement level and a scale score. Preliminary achievement level and scale score within 48 hours. It's preliminary because we'll have to run some checks on it, but you'll be able to use that information for instructional purposes, placement purposes right away. That will affect reporting timelines. Hopefully, we'll continue to move all the reporting timelines earlier so that you have the final information for you as well. But we'll be updating those timelines as we move forward throughout the year as we determine what those final timelines are. A couple of pieces of information for map growth as we move forward. First of all, the Statewide Assessment Office is really just a facilitator of the map growth product. We have limited capacity to help you on those issues, so it's probably better off that you contact NWA customer service directly, especially for technology issues. But in general, they're probably the best stop and the first stop for you for help on map growth. A couple other pieces just to note. Map growth student test engagement functionality has been revamped and put back in place for this year. If you have already tested, you probably found that out. There's some new reports showing who reached the rapid guessing threshold, and some probably useful information for districts as they look at students that are engaging in rapid guessing and students that appear to be more fully engaged. So check out those new features. New map growth report navigation is available. So this is supposed to be more user-friendly, be able to filter to the reports you're looking for. So we believe, NWA believes that this will be easier for you to find reports online. They also revamped the family report. NWA did a lot of work last year with parents and with another company that is not company, another agency that has been doing a lot of work in the report field about what parents need and want in a report, and so they revamped those reports. That new family report is available for districts this year using map growth. Also available as part of the license is in grades 3 through 8 through the state contract, mathematics and reading. There's a Spanish map growth now, and you're able to use that. All of the information there is on the screen for you. So that if you have interest in using the Spanish map growth, that is now available as part of the contract that we have with NWA, and you're welcome to use it. And we encourage you to do so. If you have questions about that, once again, contacting NWA customer service is probably your best bet. Okay, professional learning. We have a new employee in the statewide assessment office this year. Ali Martinez Wilkinson is an NWA employee, but she's housed in the assessment office. She is been a certified facilitator and worked in Nebraska districts for a long time. She just moved to the department here this last summer. We're really glad to have her. And she is really in charge of facilitating the professional learning aspects that we're doing with NWA and the contract around balanced assessment. So last year we made some changes to the Certified Facilitator Program. If you knew the Certified Facilitator Program before it predated the existing contract with NWA, but that work was all about specifically map growth. NWA created professional learning around that, provided it to the certified facilitators. Then the certified facilitators could provide that professional learning to districts. When Nebraska did the contract with NWA, we expanded that certified facilitator program. Now 72 certified facilitators exist across the state in every ESU, and most of our largest districts have multiple certified facilitators. They get a lot of content throughout the year that they can then provide to the districts or to their schools, but we also changed the way that we're doing providing that professional learning or even planning that professional learning. So it used to be before the contract, NWA created it, and then it came down from them through the certified facilitators. Now it's more of a collaborative process between NWA, NDE, ESUs, and districts, all working together to determine what types of professional learning are needed, and then to calibrate that professional learning so we get at the right level for Nebraska teachers and educators across the state. And so there's ESU people, there's district people, NDE people, NWA people, all working together to plan that and to deliver that and to get that information out. So those certified facilitators are a great resource for map growth information, for NSCAS information, and other types of professional learning around balanced assessment systems. A couple of specific ones that we want to highlight. There's a balanced assessment system for leaders coming up in February. We're working together to plan that and get that going. And so really it's about helping describe what a balanced assessment system looks like, and to help leaders move towards a balanced assessment system. As I've frequently said, the State Department cannot, the Department of Ed cannot create a balanced assessment system themselves. There's a lot of local control in Nebraska, which is a very positive aspect of living and working here. But districts have to be the ones that really do a lot of the work. At the NDE, we try to support districts in their creation of a balanced assessment system. This professional learning is just one more of the supports we're offering to try to help districts think about how do they implement a balanced assessment system that is beneficial and fuels improvement of their district, schools, students, teachers, and those types of things. So that's coming up in February. There'll be more information soon about registering for that. We're also working on some evidence-based writing workshops. Last year we did a text-dependent analysis. We're really focusing on evidence-based writing this year across the curriculum, using evidence to support the claims and the types of writing that students are doing. It's really, we think it's really important regardless of what content we're talking about. If you look at the ELA, standards, if you look at math standards and the new science standards, they all support using evidence to support writing and using that information. And so what we're focused on is middle school. It's 2 full-day workshops. You see those there. And what we're looking for is middle school teachers to come, a pair of teachers, a science teacher and an ELA teacher, to come together and focus on science writing around evidence-based writing. And so you can see the dates that are listed out there. We have 2 different dates in February, March, and then another day in May and June. Those are supposed to be worked together. So if you come on day 1, we would like you to come back for day 2. And this kind of goes with the information for science. So a lot of people are still asking if we're planning on doing an open-ended constructed response question for science. Right now, it is our intention to do that, but we're right now we're working to see if we have the resources to implement that. But what I would say is, regardless of that, even if we don't end up putting evidence-based writing questions on the state assessment, we think that the standards really support this, the instructional shifts really support this, and so we think it's good instructional practice, even if it's not on a state test. If students are able to apply their knowledge in a constructed response, they're more likely to be able to do that in a selected response environment on a test if we don't happen to add that type of question because of a lack of resources. We should know very soon if we're going to have those types of questions on the operational test next year. There are no constructed response questions on science this year for the field test, but we're still hoping to be able to implement those next year on the operational. As we have more information, we'll let you know about that. A couple of pieces about science and NSCAS science. Remember, this year we're doing field testing in the spring. That is census field testing, so we expect all students to take part unless we've specifically exempted them for some reason, like not having paper pencil. But very few of our students are currently using paper pencils, so it would not include very many students. Remember, in a field test, we're testing the test, not testing the students. You will not get results back. We will not report results, and we will not be using science results in accountability for this coming year. And all of this is in preparation of an operational spring 2021 test that we're moving towards. Waiver, I'm not going to spend much time on this. I've talked about it a couple of times. The reason why I wanted to bring it up is because it's really important. If we would not have gotten this waiver from U.S. Department of Education, our students would have had to take 2 tests this year, one based on the legacy standards and another based on the new standards for the field test. Luckily, they saw and decided to give us that waiver, so we only have to do the 1 field test this year. We continue to put a lot of information on the science transition page, which includes pilot tasks or pre-pilot tasks from last year when we did a pilot. And so they're out there for teachers to look at. They include the task, a key, and an annotated version, so teachers can see a breakdown of those tasks and how they're pulled apart, how they were put together with the 3-dimensionality. So those are there for 5th grade and 8th grade. We'll continue to put more and more resources available up on that science transition page. A couple of pieces that are important that we owe you, and soon, a test blueprint or a table of specifications and supporting material. So what we've learned over the last couple of years, actually, of working on the science assessment and trying to get it ready, is that the blueprint or the TOS, the table of specifications, is going to look very different than the old TOS for science or the table of specifications for ELA and math. The 3-dimensional standards kind of necessitate a different style of blueprint or table of specifications. And so we're getting ready to put that out. We've shown it to a couple of people, got some feedback on it, and we're ready to put it out there. We're going to do a recording of that when we're ready to put it out there. so we can introduce that and explain that. It'll probably be about a 10 or 15-minute recording, we believe, and you'll be able to share that with your science teachers all across the state at that point in time. So that's hopefully coming very soon. Item type sampler or practice opportunity, like I said before, is going to be available in December, and it will be using revised pilot tasks from last year to create those item type samplers, but it'll be good practice opportunity for your 5th grade and 8th grade students before they take the field test in the spring. We owe you some guidance on scheduling. So the test is going to be probably longer than it has been in the past. We're working on that guidance now to get it out to you so that you have that information and it's available to everybody when you're scheduling. The science field test is going to be in the same window as the rest of the tests, ELA and math, at the same window that we established before. But you're probably going to need 2 different sessions at a minimum for the science test, because it is a little bit longer than it has been in the past. The new rigorous college and career ready standards kind of necessitated that difference. It's not just rote memorization anymore. There are differences in what we're asking students to do. Just a couple of pieces of information on SCILLSS. The SCILLSS grant, Strengthening Claims-Based Interpretations and Uses of Local and Large-Scale Science Assessment Scores, or SCILLSS, is our enhanced assessment grant. Rhonda True in our office is the grant coordinator. The people that are involved in that grant have been working very hard the last couple of years to come up with resources that are available to states and districts as they work towards changes in science assessment. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. If you're interested, you can slow this down a little bit and look at all the things they've been doing. This slide here really kind of gets into all of the deliverables that the SCILLSS grant has been working on, whether that's theories of actions or guides on developing classroom-based assessments. So that's there for you. A couple pieces I want to point out specifically. There is a series of assessment literacy videos that are out there. It's 5 chapters. It's something that you might think about using as you're working with professional development. Those videos might be something that you want people to, your teachers, to take a look at and then have discussions about. Those are available on the SCILLSS resource page. There's a link here for that. And then the other thing that I'll mention is assessing the classroom task. This summer we did some work. The SCILLSS grant did some work in Nebraska around creating tasks for classrooms. Helping teachers, classroom teachers, figure out how to create 3-dimensional tasks that are similar to the ones that we're going to be using in the science assessment. So it's really was really useful to teachers. We got a lot of great feedback. The NATS group and the state of science teachers are invited the SCILLSS grant back to do a pop-up conference, which is happening later in the school year. But a lot of people are using those resources now, and I would just wanted to point that out to people, that these are continued resources that are available. If you have questions about that, contacting Rhonda True in our office might be a good idea. Thank you. If you have feedback for us, we always invite your feedback. We appreciate your feedback. The last thing I'll say is, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to contact our office. We are always trying to be responsive and to get back to you as soon as possible. We appreciate your questions, and we much rather have you ask those questions than get something wrong. So if you have them, let us know, and thank you for your time, your dedication to your students and your schools. If you need any help from us, please let us know. Thank you.